And the perch, no, just a bobber and the hook, no weight.
Just let
And he'd let the perch go, these perches swimming all around, wherever he wanted to go, and finally Northern come by and that looks like a good dinner, and then he would find himself hanging on the end of that 15-foot bamboo pole. So.
Except now, guys, you can't fish with perch.
Oh, I know, it's illegal now. Yeah, yeah, you got to be careful what bait you use, but he was a master. He knew just exactly what he wanted and where they were and how he was going to get them and how many he was going to get that year, and he
Sure.
So he was the northern catcher. Then we were up at, let's see now, where were we? Up in Nizwa, Clark Lake at Nizwa, with my uncle. And it was a stormy day, and they went out in the boat and came back, and my uncle caught about a 14-pound northern.
Wow.
And he wrestled that thing and threw it in a live box. So everything was fine until we were ready to leave. And the fish was still live, so you didn't have much refrigeration in those days. So he had reached in to get the fish, and it jumped out of the live box into the lake. And he went in after it. I mean, well, luckily, initially when he caught the fish, he grabbed it across the head and into the eyes.
Uh-huh.
And he had apparently screwed up the vision, so that the fish was, when he flopped out of the live box, he's kind of stunned as to where should I go. And in that moment, he dove in, wrapped his arms around the fish, and came up with a splashing fish and dripping wet. But Lake Sibley was where my dad and I had the close call. We were in the canoe. We had an 18-foot Old Town canoe, and he had just hooked the northern, about a 7-pound northern, and he was bending over, and he was just hunched up and bending over in the canoe, trying to get the hook out of the fish's mouth, when the thing flapped its tail and knocked him out of the canoe.
Jeez.
Well, now here he is sprawled out in the lake with a fish attached to him.
Yeah.
And when the canoe ran over, I went out. I was in the back, in the stern. I went out. So here, two of us in the drink. The canoe is gradually drifting away, and this is the recipe for disaster.
Oh, yeah.
So I take out after the canoe. He's out there splashing around in the lake. I push the canoe over to him. Well, now we're both on the same side of the canoe, and I can see that isn't going to work, so I dive under the canoe and grab the other side. He clambers in. I clamber in. We're both soaking wet. And here's this northern pike just flapping like crazy all through the holes. So after that, whenever we went out in the canoe, we had to have a long window weight. It was a long tubular window weight that they used to use to pull up windows.
Yeah, I know.
And we had to leave that balanced on the bow of the canoe on it with a rope, so that if this incident ever happened again, the window weight would fall into the lake and anchor the canoe so it couldn't be blown away from us.
That's pretty ingenious.
So that's got to be kind of a, what do you got that anchor? What do you got that weight there for? Well, it's long for.
People don't realize, though, when you fall out of a boat or a canoe, how far away it
Well,
goes.
and when she tips like this, and you're sticking out here, you're going to go in with everything else,
Mm-hmm.
And so when we got back to the cottage, why, we weren't saying much about much, we were soaking wet, and what happened, and that kind of thing, so that got everybody's attention.
Too bad. It's pretty ingenious putting the weight up there.
Yeah, didn't have to worry. And that was one of these old town parkboard canoes with the big sponsons on the side. But even with the sponson, when she tipped, it was everybody out, everybody for himself, you know. So, good lesson in safety.
What do you guys think? Grandpa pulling your leg? Jeez. But now he didn't get hooked by the northern one, he went.
Yeah, it hooked in his shirt.
Oh, it hooked in his shirt.
So they were together.
Sure.
Splashing around in the
Oh. See, yeah.
That's what knocked him out, see?
Yeah.
The thing was hooked to him and gave a splash, knocked him off balance, and they both went for a swim. Well, the three of us went for a swim.
Yep.
But,
Huh.
but that was, that wasn't too hot. But the time we went duck hunting, we went duck hunting up at Flat Lake, where we had the cottage. And I wasn't too excited about duck hunting. It was a lot of work. You had to put the decoys out and all this kind of thing. But it was a kind of a nice day. And in fact, it was quite a warm day. And the ducks were flying at about 3,000 feet, and there was a hill to the north of the lake, and there were some people up on the hill. And when the ducks would come flying over that hill, they'd get a salute from the hunters up there, and that'd kick them up another 100 feet.
Sure.
By the time they got down to us, you know, we could just barely make out that there was something in the sky, when all of a sudden we heard a train.
Oh.
This was a loud train, and we both looked up and to the same response. Where did that train come from? There are no trains around here. And almost at the same time, we both about the same idea. We're starting to haul in the decoys, throw them in the canoe. This was that same old town canoe with the sponsons on the side, and we had a 1 1/10 horsepower outboard motor to drive it. It had a bracket on the back so it would propel it forward. And the next thing we knew, we had 2 to 3 foot waves on the lake.
Oh, man.
And she was coming in, I mean, it was coming in like gangbusters. Well, we had all the stuff in, had the blind down, and the decoys were in the place they should be, and the outboard motor was wide open, and we were propelling in, and we're going by 3 guys on a rowboat that were out fishing, and they had street clothes on. We had at least had rain gear, and they were rowing. After the first year, they don't last that long.
Well, it's not charging either. Well, I suppose you can't do both. Huh. Hey, you took my spot,
Don't
Snarky.
charge the battery, just like look it up. So
Yeah, so anyway, we probably missed all the good canoe stories, but anyway.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
So anyway, this Miss Kelly, he was in charge of explosives, and I remember you heard him. You heard him out there in the field in the jungle. He'd holler, "Fire in the hole!" And when Miss Kelly said, "Fire in the hole," you started heading the other direction as fast as you could go, because you knew that he had enough charge in there to lift whatever he was lifting up 3-4 lengths and turn it over a few times. And before it came down, why, it shook loose all the pythons and all the leeches and all the other non-desirable things. So he heard somebody saying, "There should be something else to eat around here. I'll get you something to eat." So he goes out in the assault boat And he's out there fiddling around and throws something overboard. And the next thing you know, the river erupted and turned over 3-4 times. And it was just covered with little fish about 2 inches long. And this was an area where we hadn't seen many natives. But after this explosion, both sides of the bank of the river were filled with natives with hats catching all these little fish.
Sure.
And Kelly's out there in the boat holding his hand up to shade his face, looking in the water to see what he really got. And here's something bobbing up and down in the water, and he's got himself a 5-foot long channel catfish that weighs about 90 pounds. And in one of those albums, you can see the carcass of this fish tied to a tree. And I'll tell you, we had good fish for a week on that
Yeah.
encounter.
Do you have a shot of that in one of the photos?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
The water buffalo was cool.
Oh, that was, yeah, that was, that's the best steak I ever ate. He, that was Miss Kelly's sidekick, Sergeant Truelove. He was a character that all the cattle in India are sacred. And so he was,
Just let me have one on. I'm listening.
he was eyeing these cattle, not as sacred cows, but as beefsteak. And one day his better judgment let him down. And didn't he go out and wrestle down one of these young steers and throw in the back of a weapons carrier and take off?
Huh.
Well, the natives in India, they'll tolerate a lot of things, but this was something that they weren't going to put up with. So a number of telephone calls, and pretty soon the Indian police are out looking for these two rustlers.
Rustlers, yeah.
And I guess it finally ended. It's the pictures in here. In fact, let's see. Okay, show you. Got to go to the next page.
I figured it would turn up.
It's in this section, I think. No, keep looking at that. I think it's in. She's got it in there somewhere. So that ended without anybody ending up in jail, but it was almost started a riot.
With the locals, huh?
Yeah, this was in Calcutta. You know, they don't like that kind of thing going on.
Huh.
And what about that time where someone shot I don't know what was it, and then some guy crawled out and put a hook around it and pulled it in?
Well, yeah, that was in combat. We'd been eating these K rations and C rations, which come in a can or a package looked like Cracker Jack. And I don't know how long they've been in there, but it's probably been in there a year or two before we even got them. So everybody was pretty much down in the mouth about the food we were eating. Here comes a water buffalo, and the water buffalo is a beast of burden over there in Burma. And it was just a native's water buffalo that had probably strayed out of the pasture or something and came by our perimeter when somebody uncorked the shot, and we had a dead water buffalo out somewhere between our lines and the Japanese lines. And I don't know if the Japs knew that we just nailed the water buffalo or not, but it was far enough out so that there weren't too many people that were enthusiastic about risking their neck to go out and carve off a hunk of steak.
Right.
So True Love finds a big tow rope somewhere, and he wiggles out there and gets his tow rope around the buffalo, and they form a heave-ho line and drag the carcass into our perimeter. Well, so then the butchering started, and everybody ended up with a slab of meat. Well, we weren't too enthusiastic about starting fires at that time of the night because they knew pretty well where we were anyway, and there was no use for giving them a target. But when they came around and gave you a slab of nice raw steak, why, it seemed like might be worth the risk. So everybody got the trench shovels out, cleaned them off as much as they could, and then we fried the water buffalo on the trench shovels, and that was the best steak I'd ever had in my life. I think I chewed it all night. It just never went down, but it was just like chewing gum.
Right.
It gave the flavor off all night long, and that was memorable.
Without a doubt. I don't remember that story. You must have told that to Jason before. Sure, you remember that. Look at this. Grandpa and I went up in that airplane. Remember that, going up in there?
Yes, I do. I sure do, and I wasn't too happy about it either.
No.
I didn't feel too comfortable up there, although it seemed like it was safe enough with a pontoon plane that, you know, and but I realized that
Well, in hindsight,
things could happen that you weren't prepared for.
hindsight, it maybe wasn't the smartest thing I've ever
Right,
done.
that's right.
You want to get downstairs? Oh, good idea.
That was when I used to work at a restaurant in high school. Oh, you got a good shot of the,
Yeah.
what do you have set up there? The Split Rock. We've been there.
Split Rock Lighthouse on, yeah.
That's a great shot.
Yeah.
Did you walk with me down, Andy, or did
I saw that kid.
I did.
you and I walk down there? Yeah. Yeah, a kid got cut on them, the rocks playing on there. There are some old pictures.
Look at that one.
Is that,
That's me.
that's you?
It's integrated, I think.
Now there's your dad holding some fish, huh?
Yeah. That was at Flat Lake.
Is it?
Oh, I think well, I don't know, somewhere. No, this was at Clark Lake.
Oh, was it?
This is a Model P Ford. And that was where he caught that fish,
But oh, I really did a good this time.
Jumped out the live box. Because he grabbed it by the eyes. He was lucky enough to stun him and get him back.
But now you're up there, you're wearing your bow tie.
I hope not.
Looks to me like you have your bow tie on.
Oh, it might be. It's very possible. Yeah, it's very possible. Dressed out in knickers.
With your knickers.
Yeah.
Johnson Street, I think that was for sale recently again.
Sold for $70,000.
Oh, you did know it was for sale.
Yeah, we clipped out the item in the paper.
Hasn't gone up that much in value as of over the years, or?
No, not really. And they've apparently done a lot of improving on it.
Yeah. That's bad, I have that. Pictures. But do you see something you do?
You didn't have it on in November, though, did you?
So tell us about the time you jumped in the model, whatever it was, and went out to California, and where all?
Oh,
With your dad?
The 38 Ford.
38 Ford.
Oh, see, Dad bought a new Ford in 1937.
Oh, so it was a new.
Bought a new Ford in 1937 and was pretty happy about it. But then when the 1938s came out, he decided that they were the car to have.
Yeah.
So he traded the 37 in on the 38. And that was an 85 horsepower automobile. That's less horsepower than most of these snowmobiles have.
Right, yeah.
And so we drove over 7,000 miles in 2 weeks on my dad's vacation. And we went out to Yellowstone Park. We went out to California, to Oregon, to Washington, back through South Dakota, Denver, Colorado. We really covered the territory in 2 weeks, 7,000 miles with an old 38 Ford. And that car never boiled over in the mountains, never had any trouble. There'd be cars lined up, 15, 20 cars lined up, going up a mountain, all of them boiled over, and we come zipping by in this crate. Never had a bit of problem.
Huh. Trying to think about there. Yeah, anyway, I don't think those pictures are here in the fish. But so that was his first new car he bought in 37, and then he wanted,
Yeah.
and then they came out with such
Better one in 38, so we just...
had the
traded
bug
that.
and said, heck,
Yeah.
look at all the goodies you have there for ice fishing.
Well, see, that I made that ice fishing, I don't know if you remember.
I remember that.
That I glued it together first
Yeah.
in the basement, and then I stitched through the glue. I used that Elmer's glue and squared it up that way. And then once I got it squared up, then I sewed it up with fish line. But it was they were old mail sacks. Monkey Ward was closing out their old mail sacks, and these mail sacks were nylon, but they were full of pinholes. But I figured the pinholes would be kind of neat because it would give you a little air and light in the.
Sure.
So I just ripped them apart and made this fish house. A one-time deal.
And you made your
Yeah,
sled.
skis,
and,
sled,
Now Jim went with you out on
yeah.
that.
Yeah, he went out one time. He got his feet wet.
Yeah.
See, the water, it was a wet season, and the water, when we did put the hole in for the fish house, when the water came up, it was under pressure,
Sure.
and so he got his feet and his shoes wet. So I left him in the fish house, and I came back to the house, and got him some clean, dry socks, and some overshoes. Lorraine and Al are coming over. No. tomorrow morning,
What's this?
11 o'clock. That's my A string. Rain and Ella coming over at 11 o'clock tomorrow. This is gonna swing by. That's all right. That's
Oh,
fine.
that A string is for his
Violin.
violin, Rick.
Are you
Rick
still
went up.
taking something?
Yes,
Yeah.
The Superman's coming at 10:30.
I know that. That's no problem. That won't,
Anyhow,
they're just gonna drop in.
anyhow, I brought you some flowers.
I hope you don't expect me to put on a concert after not having played for 50 years.
Well, I asked him about the other, I didn't call it catgut because I wasn't sure, but I said, do you have nylon type or whatever? He said, well, they can special order those. This was at Schmidt Music of all places. So I said, well, that's better than nothing. Just give me-
What does this cost me, by the way?
Oh, they're like $5 now. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Not
that,
too
You
bad.
know what? I think that it's
What?
been more
What,
than.
Mom?
Paying for the string.
No,
I don't have,
fine.
I don't carry any money with me. You can pay.
Oh,
for
that's
it.
cute.
I don't wear it.
It's, you know, it hasn't been 50 years since you played, Bill, because I know you played for us before Christmas.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No, we enjoyed it. That seems to fit.
But doesn't fit me across. Are you still?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm just letting her run while we talk. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
So,
That's tight across. That's tight across the back for you. Try it around again. It just seems like it's.
So anyway, yeah,
Well, you're leaving me in the dark.
we got interrupted. What were we? Oh, yeah, the 38 Ford.
so that was, he drove that way over 100,000 miles. And that car, I know this for a fact, you could put that car in second gear, go 75 miles an hour. How did I know that? Wow. That's the way it goes.
Some hot rodding, huh? Is it a 3-speed?
3-speed transmission.
Yeah.
And he used to put lubriplate in the transmission. He didn't put regular oil in the transmission, he put lubriplate. And when the thing was finally, I think at 100,000 miles, he took the transmission apart, and the gears were just as sharp as on the edge as a knife blade.
Really?
Yeah. So that lubriplate, that's a zinc oxide concoction of some kind. And I'm gonna put this in my pocket so I don't lose it.
Yeah. He had some insight, I suppose, on how to, did you want to look at some of these? How to keep things running well. Oh.
Well, he used to keep that, trying to think of the name of the car we had. Willys Overland. He had a Willys Overland 4-door sedan. And that thing had to have the bearings replaced about every 10, 20,000 miles.
Really?
And he was always under that thing, trying to keep it going.
Willie's, yeah.
Willys Overland.
That reminds me, you have a story about the transmission. Did you yank out a transmission
In the middle of the
in
winter.
the middle of the winter? I remember that story.
Well, we had a 32 Ford well, it wasn't a convertible, it was a rumble seat, rumble
Bring
seat
it down here
coupe.
so you don't forget.
And it got pretty cold one winter. And rather than throwing out the transmission the way we should have done, I should have done, I started it up, backed it out of the driveway, only to hear a loud noise. And it split the transmission case. So here it was, a perfectly good automobile with a split transmission case, and no money to really have that work done. And I mean, in the garage, that's like going to a hospital today.
Sure.
So So went down to the junkyard, got a new transmission. Now it's now 20, you know, it's 20 below zero outside. And jacked the car up, dropped the transmission and hauled in the basement. Dump all the parts out and replace them in the new, and he rebuilt the new transmission. It wasn't a new transmission, but it was new. It was a housing to put the other gears in, because there apparently was something wrong with that one. Put it back together, and we were in business again. Those were the days, you know. When
I know they're tasty.
Say,
Quit eating those.
I want Patty or Rick to wrap up
what?
some dishes that, you know, I
Oh,
yeah,
washed
right.
yesterday. So just go down the basement and find a box that will hold something that big.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of boxes
In
down
a
there.
minute.
Okay, quit eating candy.
I want to show you this, and I want you to have it.
What part of the lake, I was thinking about Platte Lake, what part of the lake was that
Maybe you
cabin?
don't want it, but this,
It was
my mother
on-
gave me that in 1958 when you
Oh,
were first
no.
It
born.
was on the
I
middle
want you to have it.
east,
There's a like
Shore.
ice cream things. You want one?
the middle east shore,
You like
Flat
those?
Lake.
You
Yeah.
got Nestle Crunch ice cream?
Oh, I like those. Yeah, I tried to pick out something guys like.
Middle East Shore.
Okay, I'll be there if we don't.
And it's on, the cottage is on the level with the lake. But the parking space is up about 25 feet above the cottage toward the road. And that's where the Biffy was too, up in this. So you had to walk down the hill to get to the cottage.
Sure.
But, and we had the only decent well, I think, in the neighborhood. So people would come from quite a ways to keep our well pumped.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so it was always nice and clean and well pumped. And, but it was always a workhouse when we got out there.
You didn't have time to enjoy
Fix the
it.
road, fix that, while all our friends would be out in the lake fishing, we'd be up on the roof patching. And that message got through to me real loud and clear when my mother asked if we were interested in the cottage, and I said, no, we were not.
Yeah.
You like your flowers?
Oh, I think they're
What
beautiful.
is Mrs. Crooked?
What?
What is
I
that?
can't tell, I don't know what kind of flower that is.
I bought him at the they had a new little red-haired carryout boy.
Oh.
So I laid it down on the counter, and she said, "Get some floral paper." And he said,
Paper's bad enough, floral paper.
"Floral paper?" But she said, "Wrap the flowers in." He says, "Oh." She says, "Floral paper." He says, "Oh!" Big red-haired, so cute. She says, "His first day working."
Oh.
Then she came back, and she said, "Then you have to wrap it in the floral paper." He says, "I don't know how."
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this A string on in a place where I'll remember where it is.
I can't, I won't be able to find it. No, I wrapped a few dishes and with Dad's approval, and we want you to take them today. And those go home with you. Dad and I looked through every album,
Yeah, we're just going through now, there's some fun
and
pictures in there.
there's a big picture of me, 8 by 10, within the chair.
Is there?
The first time through, we didn't find it. Because see, I can't see pictures that well. So I said,
Oh.
I know it's in the one book. So I went through 2 other books and I said, there it was. But I can't see pictures. And I think it's time you take it home and let your kids look at them once in a while.
Very enjoyable.
I usually see the other books I got in the closet. Big heavy books.
Well, that's one thing that the Knowles have always been known for, is taking good pictures.
So one winter, I spent 3 months in the kitchen, when I wasn't doing anything else, dividing all the pictures in half.
I remember that.
In thirds, pardon me.
You were telling
Us,
that.
Jim, and Rick. And when I got done, I thought, well, that was an interesting job. Very interesting. They're coming out tomorrow. I suppose they're going to bring it in. Well, I just thought those flowers were kind of perky, but they don't look. I'm tired.
Well, it's doing great.
I know. They usually last till July if I'm careful.
Really?
Yeah, I throw them out of desperation.
Which album do you have that picture of the channel cat that was hanging in the tree.
What?
The fish. The big fish over in Burma that's hanging from the tree.
Oh, any of the books down there, but you have to go through them.
Oh, no, you got one book, you got,
No, I got Burma stuff in 2 books.
oh, well, one of the books is here, so there must be,
Well, those are the ones going home for them.
right.
Might be in the other book then, that's fine.
Well, no, I'd like to have you have the picture.
Well,
Well, there's probably,
that's gonna take a long time.
No, I don't think so.
Well, can you lift it down here?
Yeah.
Wait till you have something they have to look over.
Oh, look at it.
you gotta put these things away or you won't have any left.
Well, here's an interesting
I
picture.
think you remember.
Isn't that nice? Wow.
Let me see that one, hold it up.
It's
Oh.
all the development, all the dirt.
Mhm.
This one is your wedding.
But
This is all your wedding. I'm gonna leave my flowers out like that.
I think your mom looked just the same when Liz
Oh.
was born as she always looked the same.
took some great shots. Which of the neighbors would love to see some of these.
Imagine.
You know, they probably, most people don't think of things like that.
Here's Platte Lake.
Where's Lookout Mountain, Bill?
Here's Platte Lake. Here's the lake.
Well, where's Lookout
from-
Mountain?
We were
Vicky's
chaperones.
right here. This is.
And my mother took care of the children.
The cars right
And she
here.
called and told you to come home, didn't she?
Cool.
Oh, oh, oh.
You had a pretty fancy WTCN car, Bill.
What?
You had a pretty fancy WTCN car that you
Oh,
drove
yeah,
around
yeah,
in.
that was, that was
Oh,
neat.
you're petting. What is that? That's
That was,
comfortable. We went through all those the other, we better keep yours separate because otherwise we'll not.
You're right there.
I know, but let's,
Yeah.
we're messing around with these.
but Patty, that was the best job anybody could have had, anywhere.
Here is, it looks like a, from a newspaper or something, it says Channel 11 ace cameraman Bob Spalding left and Bill Knoll paused in the midst of their busy news filming activities to pose beside the WTCN TV
Who
news
said that?
cruisers. I'll show you.
That's great.
And
Oh,
then,
gee.
okay, now I'm not done reading yet, ready?
Who put that baloney in there?
Okay, now, oh yes, dear, pausing beside the news cruisers, Spalding and Knoll frequently travel hundreds of miles daily to film the news for Channel 11 viewers, dramatically, vividly, and exactly as it happens.
Yeah, probably that, well, while it was happening.
Do I see that picture with that on there?
Yeah,
went through it the other
that I gotta see, Patty.
Right here.
Oh, boy, look at the 57 Chevy and 56
Aren't those
Chevy.
fancy?
Oh,
Why don't you
you're
sit there,
kidding.
Patty, and you can look through the book.
Oh,
Did
Oh,
That's
this was
pretty fancy.
WTCN.
Yeah.
Oh, this was TCN, this was Mel Jazz's station. He just died, by the way.
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah. Oh, this is
But
WTCN.
quite a
Oh, well,
nice
that
write-up
was-
about Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Grandma.
Well, they were
Ace
full- They
reporter.
were full of malarkey.
You take it, tuck it in.
They can spend more time.
Two of those on
Thank you, Grandpa.
Grandpa.
Here it is.
Grandpa.
Oh,
thank
found
you
it.
for the Valentine
Thank
money.
you for the Valentine's
What?
money.
For the Valentine money.
You got Valentine's?
Yes,
Hey.
Just money.
Okay, show me this.
Yeah,
Dirt.
Valentine's
There
for
it
Grandma
is.
and Grandpa.
Channel cat.
Oh, wow. Holy.
And that's in Burma.
Yeah, that's the channel
That's where
cat.
that lock is from.
Let me see
Blew
this.
up out of the bottom of the river. There it is.
Whoa.
Here's
That's just a
Jim's
part of it, right?
That's just a
birthday
part of it. The
party.
other part's in the
Fancy,
kitchen, you know.
Grandma. You sure did a
And here's my-
fancy job with Jim's
My
birthday.
only deer hunting trip.
I can't
Oh, you have all
Where did you
kinds
go
of
deer hunting?
pumpkins.
Up around Reamer.
sit with you.
Oh, okay.
The boys.
Plenty of deer up there.
You can sit, Grandma. I'll sit on.
No, you're
Actually,
fine.
Deer that we got.
What kind of car is
We shot
that?
in Flat Lake.
Is that right?
I never saw one like
Came back,
that.
it was a doe. I came back,
That
We
was
didn't get any
little
up at
Volkswagen
River.
bus, I think.
So we,
Oh, it might be.
That's the one where Richard was going to be
Look at
born.
it.
It didn't start, and your dad,
Thank you.
Grandpa lifted it up
You're welcome.
and dumped it on the,
Grandma.
on the driveway and it started. Yeah, lift it up the back and dump it, it started.
Is that a Volkswagen?
No,
Grandma.
that's something
Some
weird.
kind of.
What is
You're
it,
thinking
Dad?
of Grandpa too.
Citroen or something?
No.
A Nash?
Oh, no.
that's a Nash Rambler station wagon.
Both is a Nash.
Wagon.
Well, and you should never question him and his cars.
Well, this is
He knows.
a 57 Nomad, which is a two-door.
And the fridge great-
Those are
great big
rare.
bottle.
Yeah.
You know everything about cars, don't you?
Yeah, everything. So how to buy them new and pay for them. What else you find? Oh, what is that?
This was a 1948 Ford. Notice how they hardly changed from the 1938 Ford.
Yeah.
Old Hank, he hung on to those dies until
Yeah, sure.
Till he wore out.
till Chevrolet put him to shame.
Well, it was a different era though, too.
Well, of course.
Fruit.
You bought the car and you wore it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't get excited about trading it in every year.
Well, and the same with the
Jason,
two
why
of
don't you
them.
go
You
try
could
it?
form a
Exactly.
You'll have to
fender.
buy some
Yeah, right.
know.
pop with
Pop
coconut
a fender, and he's already got it in the last
Oh.
20 years
Now
ago.
27 for a bottle.
Here's more
Where
plant
did he
leaf.
add that
Oh,
sugar?
he took me to the drugstore on the way
wait a
back to
minute.
stop and wanted me to try
Isn't
it
it?
out.
No?
So he drank the whole one.
No, I don't
and have
think
one
that's
open,
Flat Lake.
Another one there.
I don't, oh, this is,
Oh, I can't see when you do ask her.
no, that isn't Flat Lake. That's probably,
They look
that's
nice
probably
on
when
you.
we went to,
Let me bring it over and I'll tell you what it is.
oh, Flat Lake? Yeah, I guess it was.
How'd you like it?
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
That's creepy, isn't it? Want to try it, Patty?
What?
I don't think so.
Coconut,
Pina colada.
pineapple.
Well, see, this is the way our neighborhood looked at 1807 Johnson Street. This is shot at Johnson Street.
Really?
Yeah. That's,
No, fun.
that's the way it was out there.
South
Here's-
of Johnson.
Look at this, look at this. This is looking east from Johnson Street.
I went
The
to
corner
the
of
doctor,
Westland's corner
or the
there.
dentist on Monday, and they put in my.
So it was like right on the edge of,
And then they-
No, but
nothing,
nothing,
yeah.
exactly. Oh, it was ideal.
And
Yeah.
You had
got all
the,
done. and
you had the whole world,
Went
you
out
know.
to the car and I had to go to the bank and I went to.
You went
go
out the
by
back door and you were in the
dentist
wilderness.
store, and I was trying to up by the
Right.
dentist and his work. I got out and I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My nose is all pushed to the side. And I got cement all over my whole cheek and
Did he tell you?
No! And I talked to the receptionist, I talked to the nurse. I thought, well, I'm sure glad I wasn't walking around and going shopping and in stores looking like
They always
this.
bite my face off with a damn
Well, I would have liked it because then I'm in the car trying to get it off. There's not a lot of stuff to
Next time you should go
work.
and wear it and say, by the way, you left this on last
Yeah.
night."
I have to go back again next Monday.
There's some more of Johnson Street.
Mm-hmm, I remember the porch.
Yeah, that's where the dog ran loose. and so she
Because I
could
remember
run
when
back
they were
there.
doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did he drive down there that day to have it on?
And I poured a concrete wall from this edge all the way back to the back of the lot.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mixed it in a mortar box.
Now, didn't you guys
I
do
could
this
take
too,
it
those
around the block
runways
if
for
you
the
Yeah,
want.
tires?
yeah, we carried limestone in, because those were the two coal bins there, so you had to make it heavy enough for a coal truck.
Yeah.
Coal truck pulled up there and dumped it down the chute, so you had to have limestone base on these cement driveways, otherwise it's squished in the ground.
Move over.
So we had a very,
Yeah, to wait for me.
This
Come
one?
on, sit
Yeah, it was on my lap.
How did I ever take that away from you?
here, Patty, I'll give you one of your own.
Thank you. Oh, now
I'll give
he-
it back here.
Jason. I want Patty to see the one.
I know, it's too bad, that we never took it.
I know
I
it.
know, as I told, I know when Paula said there was,
That's the one I want to sit back in.
oh,
Can
cool.
I can just talk to her about this is Patsy.
It's too bad we never
Are you,
took
are
it.
you comfortable?
No, Richard, go over a little bit to the left.
Oh, sure. Fine.
You'll have to leave.
No, I'm not coming. I'm just gonna avoid getting
where's this now?
Okay.
That old-
See, that's where I thought.
Hey,
Oh, that's
guys,
the wax.
don't. Go in the den and watch TV.
Nice.
Don't do
Please.
that, please. Or go set up the checkers and Grandma's
Okay,
got
we've
checkers.
said
Yeah.
enough.
Which
Can I
has,
finish a sentence?
which has?
No.
No, I said Grandma has checkers set up underneath the table in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Move your feet, please. Jason,
I'm moving it.
please do not hit me.
Oh, good, you wrote up a list of who is
Please
supposed to
respect
belong
my
to
life.
where.
It has to be us.
That's the first page.
There.
Oh,
My
okay.
cousin gave this to me. To the chairman.
This
Yeah.
was the trailer.
Right to be me.
This was the station wagon.
Right on.
Mercury.
Mercury was the thing on top.
Yep.
I came home, here, you can see better.
Yeah.
I came home
You can watch television.
and I
Yeah.
said,
Want me to put it on?
Do you know
no,
how
I
to
didn't
turn
come
it
home.
on?
I stopped off
Plug
at
it in.
the rental place
Mhm.
and hooked this to the back
Now,
of
see,
the
this is
car
where I thought the chair was gonna
and drove up to the
be. I can't
house.
see
Oh, you didn't tell Mom? She thought she was
No,
gonna be
no.
in the...
And I said, okay, pack it up, we're going.
Is that right? See, I was wondering why the tent, we didn't use that tent trailer thing, or that
No,
roof
no.
tent,
He
whatever.
came
I
home
used
late,
that
he
when
came
I
home
went to
late that
Florida.
day. The whole kitchen was full
I-
of stuff, and he said, "You don't need the tent." I said, "Sure we do." No, he's look out in the driveway. Boy, was I thrilled.
Who lived in Hutchinson?
That's where my mother lived. That's where she's from, Hutchinson.
So when I
Really?
went
That
to
was the
Florida, I
property
drove
that
this
they gave away to the last,
Mercury wagon
the last
with that top on it.
business resident, or business.
You and
business
Spalding
owner.
when we
I
got-
gave it
when we
they
got
take
to
care of
Miami
that.
Beach,
They gave it to
it's
the
about
side
2
over
o'clock
there,
in the
sent
morning.
right home to us.
And
You're
of course,
kidding.
the lights are out in the public
They
parking
demolished it all
lot,
and sold
or
it for,
parking lot,
I
which
don't
is
know
right
what.
next to the beach.
I suppose it's
Right.
business.
And
Wow.
I told the guy that, I took another guy with me, I said, I'm not gonna go down there alone, I wanna help her.
Sure.
See your dad?
And so we checked in on a couple motels and they wanted $75 for the rest of the night. We said, I said, I don't think so. So we parked on the beach parking lot,
Yeah.
These are the postcards.
in the
that I
dark,
think are worth a minute
raised
if you
up
ever
the
wanna
top,
sell 'em.
and went to sleep. We woke up in the morning, we were right under a great big sign, it must have been 20 by 30 feet, you know.
Oh, I have seen
Absolutely
that, yeah.
no.
This is dated 1910.
And there was a sign on the
Well, that's
beach that
supposed
said,
to
change your man of war. I said, what the
Some other
hell
thing,
is going on here? I
yeah.
said, you can't park at the beach and there's
And
a
then
man
she-
of war
then
coming in.
I think they wrote to her out.
Well, there were jellyfish all over the beach.
Oh, man.
I think they were all
People were running
1910,
around,
because she didn't leave home.
like they were horsewhipped or something, when they
1913.
got those tentacles, stings on their feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's where we got
That's
our,
a cute
our
picture.
first Florida sunburn, and we were so sunburned. Why, we were just out there on the beach for about 15 minutes, and we just got cooked. And we went back, we rented a motel, and we got 2 big jars of Noxzema, and we each applied it over each other. And that's the way we spent the first night after we arrived.
We had been off.
In Miami Beach.
Some mothers, see, this is where I thought.
Now you went down to cover the twins, right?
Yeah.
Spring training?
No, it's outside.
And we
there's a
discovered that
child's
the motel
buggy.
we
I
got
was so sure that we had it. but
was
Mother
so
bought some
cheap
of her books that she
that they
wrote.
closed the
It's not over
they
there.
closed the
It's
swimming
upstairs
pool
now.
at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we just walked along
I
the
can
beach,
see big things. I can't
and
see
there were so many hungry people,
That's
hungry
why we
for any
missed the
kind of
picture.
conversation, that after we went by 3 places, we couldn't hold any
Who's
more
that?
food.
That's the girl.
Everybody
that-
called us
that
in.
I
Sit
grew
down,
up
have,
with.
you know,
And
where'd you
my
come
mother,
from?
she were- her
Minneapolis.
mother
Oh,
at the
wait.
same time, and she's what
Wait,
sent
you're,
me
you
those-
know,
the New
and
Testament.
they're
And they
showering
just-
us with
yes,
food and
some
stuff,
cars came
and
from- She lives in
it
California.
was
And she
unreal,
moved
it really
here.
was.
After she graduated from McAllister, she had a tell.
Oh, and then we went down to, I can't think of the
And I
name of the
didn't
street
start
now,
writing till
it was
after
a
my
main
mom
street on
passed away.
Miami Beach.
And so we write all the
Right in
time.
front of
She
a
sent me
hotel,
books
there's my
that-
dad.
that with the New Testament. She
And
sent me some cards to read.
here's my dad,
Letters,
and
oh, just wonderful.
That's the
Some
same
cards,
shot
you know.
with
She's a very Christian.
the wilderness behind
Oh,
us.
that's
the
nice.
wilderness.
Mhm.
Don't be
Yeah, the corner of the south, east corner of the house is
You're
not
gonna
great.
check here, but you
Here,
wouldn't.
whatever.
And we
It's one
Right
of those
there.
little
Walking down the
chairs
street.
I had to sit on.
There
right
it is.
We ran out of
That's
the
where I took the little
hotel.
one out.
Well, it
Oh,
was just
they're cute.
like it was shot out of the
And this is
hotel.
when they must have
And
done
I
the
said to Bob
tinting in
Fading,
the
I said,
pictures.
get that cat, it's worth
Because they
$1,000.
didn't have color film.
He
in,
makes a
so
lunch
they
for it, and I make a lunch for it,
Either hand colored or.
and we both missed it.
Hey, guys. So I
And
still
the
get
cat
a game
gets hit
out
by
in
the
the
car.
kitchen.
Or did your cards
And
on
by this
it?
time,
I
the
got
woman who
cards
owns
in
the
the
cat
kitchen
is
too.
out
How
there.
about that?
Oh,
Is there any games upstairs?
been able to
There's
catch
no
that
games
cat. She
upstairs.
said, I would have given you $1,000.
I
I looked at her and I says, we're in the right neighborhood.
Television in the kitchen there is.
What?
Go look.
Come here.
Okay. Let's go play a game or something.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up in a minute, guys.
Don't you know how to play checkers?
I have cards with me.
Do you know how to play checkers?
Well, my God, to go home soon. Shower.
Where are you gonna go
Yeah.
tonight?
I got a
I
shower.
think he has
for
to
the stupid
shower
cat.
because he was at grandma.
You
The
Yeah.
other
can take, you
grandma's
can take
too.
a shower in there.
He's allergic
I need
to
to
that
close
cat.
stuff
The
too.
cat here.
He has to get new
Okay.
Oh, we'll
clothes
set this
on.
down.
You
Which
wanna go over and
one?
bring home some hamburgers or something so we can all,
There's good pictures of
we
him.
can all have something.
I looked
Jason,
through that
that's
one
not the
already.
way to go, honey.
Oh, I didn't put these
Sorry.
on.
I'll take care of
Oh,
it.
yeah, what's
No.
No.
I don't know. Where do they come out?
What?
These two pictures.
It came out of the, this
No, I don't have this flyer.
Andy Jason, come on now.
I'll tell you what I did with the books, there's a little bit of everything.
This is,
That's good.
A lot,
Really?
lot.
Maybe I'm out.
No,
this
it
is
came out of that one.
chicken.
No. Probably came out of this one.
Yeah,
I've got more books down there.
no, we don't need
Now
to.
you know why it took us so long the
Oh,
other
yeah.
day, looking for that pic. Then we missed it the first time, Rick. We had to go back because I can't see that well.
That's right.
Well, all I can say is
What a
it's
pretty
too
dress
bad we
you
didn't
made.
ever get
You
around.
made
to
this
it.
dress, you got an A on
Yeah,
it.
I got an A on that. You know what it was beige and chartreuse, and then it was kind of a dark brown. Three colors had to be.
Jason just got done taking sewing.
Three colors had to be in your dress.
Oh,
Cool.
there's Diana, the goddess of war. Right there in the right bottom corner.
Here?
Yeah. Goddess of war.
I was pretty good at archery.
Oh, yeah. That's some fun stories.
Hard not to see things. That's my graduation. That was our group. Well, there were 14 of us. They all didn't come that night. Got to go to the whole house to come to my house. See, there I had my braces on for graduation, Andy. I couldn't open my mouth from high school.
So then you had them off here.
Boy, I just took them off there.
Hmm.
I had mine on
Sick
the
of
first
Andy,
day.
what's your this time? Pick it up.
Hello.
Okay.
Ugh.
These things happen at home all the time.
You should put more clothes on. Are you cold?
No, you're supposed to wear it all the
Yes.
time.
This is when I joined sororities in college.
Oh, man.
Lynn Petty was one of these kids.
Well,
Well,
Anywho,
that's Lynn, my mother someplace.
you find a box?
what
Did you
the?
know Ricky hasn't gone to basement to get a box?
Oh, I'll go get
Gotta
a box.
Go down and get a box.
Oh,